economy from those who rigged it. As I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of the internet, formerly known as ARPANET, created by we the people, now controlled by they, the small amount of billionaires, but something that we are going to take back. Without further ado, let's throw it to El Estudio with the two geniuses, El Señor Harold Reynolds and Jacques Van Beba.
Good morning, Egberto. Friday, the 31st of January, the last day of January, 2025. Boy, it seems like it's been a long month. A lot of stuff going on. I tell you what I noticed this morning, that almost all the anti-Trump stuff is gone off of Facebook. You know, usually you see pages and pages of it and these little pieces of, a billboard saying something. They're not there this morning. I wonder what's going
why.
Ooh. Yeah, and I saw him on there yesterday on the television set about the tragic plane crash and helicopter crash. Well, we may think that it's DEI would cause this. Notice the first thing he reaches for is something stupid. How did DEI cause this? And one of the reporters called him out on it too, and he backed off. So I'm hoping that the press will start playing hardball with him, get some answers out. And plus, he doesn't look so good.
Did you notice that?
His looks are deteriorating rapidly.
Yeah.
I mean, he's having trouble speaking. Honestly, I think he's, not going to last too much longer. I don't know. You don't know about these things, but he's beginning to deteriorate right in front of our very eyes. Which,
see how he
doesn't
walks.
yep. Much. Yeah.
Yep.
It doesn't sadden me a whole lot to see that because, there's something called karma.
Yes.
And after you've screwed so many people, it does catch up with you. So anyway, that's my opening rant this morning. And Jack has some wisdom, which is not quite a rant, but it is wisdom. So let's get to it.
All right. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I'm fine, Jack. Talk to me, my dear brother.
All right. I'm going to talk on your second topic today. Elizabeth Warren drills down on RFK Jr. for the deaths caused by measles in Samoa due to RFK Jr.'s promoting anti-vax policies. This brings a question. Why are our politicians promoting policies that kill? Kind of makes the right's pro-life stance a farce. Oh, I guess their pro-life stance only applies to the fetus, not the citizens of the world like you and me. What they're not telling you is that the world is reaching peak population, and that's why politicians and oligarchs think they can kill people more.
Jack, they're not pro-life. They're pro-birth. They don't give a crap what happens after you get born. They're pro-birth. They're not pro-life.
Right.
And both of you nailed it this morning, and those are the two subjects I'm covering. And since a very short one is that one with RFK, I'm going to play, I think I have it set up already. I'm going to play, think about this. Kennedy, RFK Jr., all his kids are vaccinated. He's vaccinated. But to make money, he found a gullible group that believes in this anti-vax theory. He jumps on it, makes a lot of money, causes a lot of deaths, but he's protected. Sounds familiar? Ever wondered why Donald Trump would feel comfortable working with this purported Democrat to run all of HHS? Scam maybe? These guys can come up with a whole lot of scams for a whole lot of gullible people. But let me let you hear how Elizabeth Warren drilled in with regards to Samoa and all the deaths he caused in Samoa. And then we'll take it on the other side.
Now, this statement this one is from Elizabeth Warren. Let's go ahead and play it. It has to do with Samoa.
I wanted to ask about your role in the 2019 measles outbreak in Samoa. In July 2018, 2 children died immediately after receiving a measles vaccine that nurses had mistakenly mixed with a muscle relaxant. The nurses get charged with manslaughter, but vaccination rates go down. I asked you about this in my office. You told me flatly that your visit to Samoa had nothing to do with vaccinations. We now know that's not true. I have the documentation. You met with the Prime Minister. You talked about vaccinations. You met with an anti-vaccine influencer who described the meeting as, quote, profoundly monumental for this movement. So what happens? Vaccinations go down. There's a measles outbreak and children start dying. But you double down. You didn't give up. Just 4 days after the Prime Minister declared a state of emergency, 16 people already dead. You sent a letter to him promoting the idea that the children had died not from measles, but from, quote, defective vaccine. You launched the idea that a measles vaccine caused these deaths. You are a very influential man. In fact, you are called the leader of the Disinformation Dozen. UNICEF and WHO, the World Health Organization, investigated this. They say the claims are false. It is not biologically possible what you claimed. And yet, ultimately, more than 70 people died because they didn't get vaccines. So my question is, do you accept even a scintilla, just even a sliver of responsibility for the drop in vaccinations and the subsequent deaths of more than 70 people? Anything you do differently?
No, absolutely not.
And there it is. There it is. There it is. Yeah, he will do absolutely nothing. So this is how these guys operate. They burned down the forest, and then they said, "Oh, look at what happened." And by the way, it wasn't me who burned down the forest. It just happened. You know, Jack is exactly right. I have a piece to do on the press conference the president had yesterday. And let me just I'm going to get Tag on the line first, but well, let me get Tag on the line, then I'll preface this. Tag, come on in, my dear brother.
Morning, Alberto.
Good morning,
I just
sir.
had to ask the burning question that, there's been so much talk about DEI lately, too much talk about it. But my question is that if you're an alcoholic and you get a job, does, even though you are a terrible alcoholic, isn't that kind of a DEI hire then?
Of course.
I mean,
Of course.
I don't
Of course.
I don't think you've got to be a person of color to be considered DEI hire. I mean, so it seems to me like a lot of the people that Trump is filling his cabinet with are DEI hires straight away. I mean, I don't think there's any denying that. So I think that's one thing we have to keep in the forefront, that, despite they're saying one thing and doing another. The other thing is that, that helicopter yesterday was, obviously in the wrong. And the airplane was doing exactly what it was supposed to be doing. I don't see why the White House hasn't come out and said anything to be critical of what the military was doing there. I think it's 100% the military's fault. So, let
me interrupt you for a second, because I want to defend. I want to defend that part, and that is they don't. I mean, I think you really mean, why don't Democrats come out and tell some truths that you can actually see for just about without an investigation? Like, let me give you an example. The chopper supposedly was at 350 feet. Their ceiling should be 200 feet. But the most important part is that they are doing the right thing. Wait till the NTSB comes out after they get all the factual information in there. It's okay for us to speculate, But for a government entity and the president to come out and did what he did yesterday, that that was beyond beyond irresponsible. But continue, my brother.
Well, and that's indicative of what we went through for 4 years, in that
Yes,
a lot of us got really tired of hearing that crap, and then
yes.
we have a disaster like this, and it's the same old stuff, only amplified. It's just terrible. So, and just remember, we've got over another 3.5 years of this same type of nonsense to listen to, unless
Well,
the Democrats get around it. And really, what we need to be doing is looking at 2026 and circling the wagons and getting Congress back. I mean, the Democrats need to be working hard on 2026. So,
yeah,
with
I'm
that,
on it.
go.
Don't leave yet. Let me just tell you this. Okay, you're first of all, you're right. The Democrats have to do that. But secondly, we need a new brand of Democrats. Right
Yeah.
now, we have a whole lot of tired old folk doing the wrong thing. And when I say old, I'm not being ageist. Okay, because there's a real old guy that's a good friend of mine. And I'm gonna call him out right now, and that's good old Jim, friend of mine. He's in his 90s, and I would put him over a lot of these youngsters in the Democratic Party for the work that he's doing. I mean, these guys with acting old and not living up to new stuff. Anyway, Tag. Let me go to Joanne. Anything else before I jump to Joanne?
Yeah. Your point about Democrats being old is that Democrats are not up for a fight,
Right.
and that's what we need to be doing as Democrats or as progressives. We need to make a fight for what we know is right, and we need to be taking back Congress.
I
So with
agree.
that, I'm going to go. Thanks, Egberto.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one. Let's go to Joanne. Come on in, Joanne.
Hey, thanks for the great conversation. Thank you, previous caller. I want to make a joke first because Schumer, I think his name is, that gives those speeches in Congress. I have
Hmm.
this to say to him. Well, you don't say, oh my goodness. Come on, man. Anyway,
Joanne, I did. You know what? I didn't know you were putting in your request to be PDR Passe's comedian. You're gonna have to remember that
I
joke for
did,
the three.
but
You're
I
gonna have
can't
to
know.
remember this for the 3 o'clock show, okay? But anyway, make your point, my sister.
Okay, my point is, I'm changing the subject to the women's health care that you had talked about.
Hmm.
I work for family planning, and I want to make one point. When you have a woman who needs to have an abortion surgery, first of all, they do so much more than abortion. I mean, I work here. But when you have a woman who has a problem pregnancy, if you're going to make her carry that, let's say, late-term pregnancy, it's not just hurting the woman. That being inside of her at this point, right, it's like late-term, is suffering. So those who are saying, we're not going to do anything, are harming that poor little creature. That's all I wanted.
Thank you very much, Joanna, and thank you for that perspective. And first of all, I I long for more women to call into the program because again, there's a perspective that's too darn testosteronic that we have that that needs to hear all sides. So thank you so kindly for calling, Joanne.
Well, thank you for hearing my ostriches.
All right, you have a wonderful day. Let's go to brother Harry. Come on in, Harry. Come on.
Buenos dias, Feliz Viernes.
Feliz
Hermano.
Viernes, hermano. You know what? You just cheered me up, Harry. You come out with such a strong,
Yeah,
happy feeling. Talk to me.
it's like that Batman. When I was growing up watching Batman, the 1960 series,
Hmm.
and there was I forget which episode it was, but Adam West was saying to I forget his name, the one that
Robin.
played yeah, he threw some foreign tongue in there, and then he said, "Oh, I think it was threw a little Spanish in there on me," and then he said, "One must keep abreast of foreign tongues." Absolutely, you do. You learn, and you learn these things, and it's good to because you're from the Caribbean and you speak Spanish. You're, as my brother would say, an Hispanohablante speaker of Spanish. I'm still trying to get him to call you and talk about that. But he always makes 1,000 excuses why he can't do it because he says it takes too long. But anyway, what I was going to say, I was going to talk about Trump, and I'm going to talk about what's the other thing? What Tad was saying.
Wait, look here. Pick one because I have to get to my other video, and it's a fairly long video.
Let me do this. I'll just say about Trump that he is deteriorating. He sounds slow and sluggish, and all he can do is do hate with this, with what's going on with this crash with the military and the 67 people that lost their lives, and blame Joe Biden and the Democrats and DEI. That's all a bunch of crap, like Tag said. You have to deal with that nonsense. But Democrats are fighting because, like I said yesterday, with the freezing of the loans and the grants, they are pushing back and they are fighting and they are doing what's right. And let's just hope we get progressive Democrats in 2026. I know the House is up for a lot of seats. They only got a 5-seat edge, 220 to 215. They can take that back, and hopefully they can narrow the gap in the Senate.
Let me make your day. Let me make your day. I want to make your day. I don't remember what state it is. I think it's in Iowa, in a plus 21 Trump district. There was a state Senate race, makeup race, because they promoted that district person became the attorney general or some position. I think it's in Iowa, and a Democrat won the district by quite a bit in a plus 21 Trump district. That may tell you something because, again, Trump he has just started this session and he's already underwater by the Gallup poll. This is something that it hadn't happened to a president in a while. He's underwater less than 2 weeks into the administration. And that's not yeah, look, that is understandable because, again, he didn't really, more so, Kamala Harris lost the election because of several factors we've discussed before, more so than he won the election. So, and so I mean, we have to understand what the dynamics of what's going on here. But thank you, Harry. I need to get to this video. You have a wonderful rest of your day, my brother. All right, let's go to the video. And this is about DEI, how Howard started the program, and I have quite a bit of his press conference. And I did that for purpose because a lot of times you put this stuff out and people tell you you're talking out of context. Why don't you let people hear the whole thing? You're speaking out of context. Well, I made sure to leave enough context in here to show that this guy is vile, this guy is evil, this guy creates dissension among people, and this guy promotes hate. We need to do better. Let me go ahead and start this, and then we'll take it on the other side. It is 13 minutes and 10 seconds or so. So callers, wait about 13 minutes, 10 seconds to call. Here we go.
Today, Donald Trump came out and he gave a press conference on the crash that occurred in Washington, D.C. And I have not seen a more despicable press conference in which he's using the tragedy of this crash, to actually promote his racist, homophobic, completely xenophobic, sexist DEI attack that has no merit in this case. It is simply amazing. Before I get into it, listen to this interview, and then we'll take it on the other side.
We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions and ideas, and I think we'll probably state those opinions now, because over the years I've watched as things like this happen, and they say, well, we're always investigating, and then the investigation 3 years later, they announce it. We think we have some pretty good ideas, but we'll find out how this disaster occurred, and we'll ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. The FAA and the NTSB and the U.S. military will be carrying out a systematic and comprehensive investigation. Our new Secretary of Transportation, we must have only the highest standards for those who work in our aviation system. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to extraordinary. You remember that. Only the highest aptitude, they have to be the highest intellect, and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. That was not so prior to getting there. When I arrived in 2016, I made that change very early on because I always felt this was a job that, and other jobs too, but this was a job that had to be superior intelligence, and we didn't really have that, and we had it. And then when I left office and Biden took over, he changed them back to lower than ever before. I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse. So as you know, last week, long before the crash, I signed an executive order restoring our highest standards for air traffic controllers and other important jobs throughout the country. So it was very interesting. About a week ago, almost upon entering office, I signed something last week that was an executive order, very powerful, on restoring the highest standards of air traffic controllers and others, by the way. And my administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent, the word talent. You have to be talented, naturally talented geniuses. You can't have regular people doing that job. They won't be able to do it. But we'll restore faith in American air travel. I'll have more to say about that. I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they want them, they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. This was in January 14th, so that was a week before I entered office. They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Then another article, the Federal Aviation Administration, this was before I got to office, recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine that our targeted disabilities are those disabilities that the federal government, as a matter of policy, has identified for special emphasis in recruitment and hiring? The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller. Think of that. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan, which says diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite. And then I came in, and I assume maybe this is the reason. The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run this Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's his government agency charged with regulating civil aviation. Well, he runs it, 45,000 people, and he's run it right into the ground with his diversity. A group within the FAA, another story, determined that the workforce was too white, that they had concerted efforts to get the administration to change that and to change it immediately. This was in the Obama administration just prior to my getting there. I've had the honor of hearing tapes. Tapes are scary. very scary tapes. You had a airliner coming in, American Airlines. He was doing everything right. He was on track. He was the same track as everybody else. They came in. It's probably the same track as they've had for 25 years or more. He's coming in the path. And for some reason, you had a helicopter that was at the same height, obviously when they hit, but pretty much the same height, and going at an angle that was unbelievably bad. When the air traffic controller said, do you see, he was talking about, do you see him? But there was very little time left when that was stated. And then also he said, follow him in. And then almost immediately after that, seconds after that, there was the crash that took place.
Are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else.
We don't even yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed, and you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people, you mean the names of the people that are on the plane? You think that's going to make a difference?
Don't for their families.
They are a group of people that have lost their lives. If you want a list of the names, we can give you that. We'll be giving that very soon. We're in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. But I think that's not a very smart question. I'm surprised coming from you.
You've already issued an executive order that you say will restore aviation safety.
Right.
This crash happened after that. Was the executive order successful, and what more needs to change to keep people safe?
Well, we issued it 3 days ago, and we're in the process of making those changes.
Mr. President, you have today blamed the diversity elements, but then told us that you weren't sure that the controllers made any mistakes. You then said perhaps the helicopter pilots were the ones who made the mistake.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
If I can, the cited FAA text that you read is real, but the implication that this policy is new or that it stems from efforts that began under President Biden or the Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is demonstrably false. It's been on the FAA's site. No, it's on the website, the FAA's website. It was there in 2013. It was there for the entirety.
What I read.
It was there for the entirety of your administration too. So my question is, why didn't you change the policy during your first administration?
I did change. I changed the Obama policy, and we had a very good policy. And then Biden came in, and he changed it. And then when I came in 3 days ago, I signed a new order, bringing it to the highest level of intelligence. Okay.
It was on the website.
Now, folks, let's be clear. First, let me clear up one thing. Remember he talked about that work requirements that he had, the DEI work requirements that the FAA had? Well, as usual, everything that he says, you have to take with a grain of salt because he comes out with a modicum of truth that is interpreted completely wrong. Here is the Snopes report on that particular FAA policy about hiring people with intellectual disability. Look, that has existed prior to Biden. It had existed throughout Trump's entire first term, which he did nothing about. And this wasn't about hiring controllers. This was about hiring people in general, people with disabilities, if they are capable of doing a particular position at FAA. FAA is not just about hiring controllers. FAA is about hiring janitors. FAA is about hiring writers. FAA is about hiring website designers. FAA is about hiring all kinds of people. And all these rules are saying is we won't restrict people because of their disabilities if there is a job that the FAA, a government organization, offers that you can do. This is excellent policy. And why is it excellent policy? Because it ensures that everybody has an opportunity to work and be a contributor to society. We know that the private sector many times discriminate on how they hire. If you have a missing hand, if you have a tweak or whatever. The government is saying, as all of us are taxpayers, let's make sure that all of us have skin in the game if you are able to do the job. That's all that thing was about. Nothing more, nothing less. And it turns out that the president misinterpreted that. But you know what was a great thing? That some of the reporters called him out. The question is if they will continue to call him out, because they must continue to call him out, because it's going to be 4 years of complete lies. I repeat, it's going to be 4 years of lies. But luckily, we have Pete Buttigieg, who immediately gave a response. You know, you have to answer Trump right away. And that is exactly what Pete Buttigieg did. If you take a look at the screen, Pete Buttigieg went and he said, despicable. As families grieve, Trump should be leading, not lying. Leading, not lying. We put safety first, drove down close calls, grew air traffic control, and had 0 commercial airline crash fatalities out of millions of flights on our watch. President Trump now oversees the military and the FAA. One of his first acts was to fire and suspend some of the key personnel who helped keep our skies safe. Time for the president to show actual leadership and explain what he will do to prevent this from happening again. Remember, none of this happened on the watch of Pete Buttigieg and the Biden administration. Donald Trump just came in, started firing people, putting all kinds of scare tactics into people. And what do we have to show? A crash between a military helicopter and a commercial private sector airplane. Okay? He wants to reduce regulations. He wants to reduce all these things that keep us safe. Well, you know, this may be the start. The truth of the matter is, sadly, Donald Trump is despicable, and he's trying to, at the same time that he's trying to find fault, he's trying to use DEI, use this crash to make believe it has something to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's a lie, and it's dangerous, and it's something we should not allow. You know, there was another piece that I wanted to do this morning that I didn't have the time last night to do on the crocodiles. Hey, I'm using Howard's terms. The crocodiles were in my eyes. I couldn't stay up to process this other video, but it was something I saw on TV. First of all, it had 2 parts to it. One, FAA, most of the controllers, 70-something% white. In this country, most of the pilots, I may have some of the numbers off a few points, 80-something% white. Then you go ahead and check out all the crashes because it is not diverse at all. Of course, who do you think is responsible for all, if not most, of the crashes in the country? So it's when he tries to throw everything up to DEI for the exceptions that occur, it's a sad case. Another story that I tried to do last night, but I just couldn't get to it, was the differences between our the defense secretary, Hegseth, against the current defense secretary. The current defense secretary, Austin, came out of West Point, had 2 master's degrees, business degrees, ran CENTCOM in overseas. He actually ended he was a general responsible for ending the Iraq war. He was a general responsible for running several different sectors. I'm not talking about being a subordinate, the one who actually ran the darn thing. That's the kind of experience that we're talking about with General Austin. And then we had Hegseth, a TV guy that worked, that did a little bit a military stint in the National Guard. When Donald Trump talks about, you guys heard me tell you how I grew up with my mother and my father both saying, remember, you have to work 10 times as hard, 2 times as hard, 3 times as hard to get half as much. This is your classic example. General Austin and Hegseth. Hegseth, the new defense secretary, a TV host and a make-believe warrior. And then Austin,
who served in theater, two master's degrees, business degrees, all these things. Look, he shouldn't need all of that. But then Donald Trump has the nerve to talk about merit and hiring based on merit. Let me tell you something, guys. What Donald Trump did is so dangerous because he plants seeds. My MAGA brothers and sisters, a lot of people say, why do you give them such a break? Why do you give racists such a break? Why do you give sexists such a break? Why do you give homophobes such a break? Why do you give them the benefit of the doubt? These are just evil people. No, because then in my past, I would have been an evil person. I was a sexist. I was a homophobe till I was educated, till I learned, till I opened myself for that education to understand that we are all capable. If we decide to be meritorious, we can be, irrespective of all those identities. So that's one of the reasons I talk about, I hit Donald Trump and all these evil people so badly. It's because what they do is plant seeds. The next time a white person sees something bad happens and there's a person of color involved, the planted seed from Donald Trump, the planted seed from some of the leaders who people one would think should respect, that planted seed received the fertilizer for germination. That is why the words of the president in this sort is so dangerous, because it's a lie that gets some germination in the minds of those who already were reared into believing there is some real difference in mental capacity, some difference in aptitude, some difference in capability, which there ain't. It's a figment of one's imagination to cover up their own inadequacies. And that's the reason this DEI thing, as I was blogging and about to do this thing, it hit me hard. As soon as I saw him trying to make the connection, I'm like, the amount of seeds that is going to plant in people's heads. And it's false. So let me tell you, my white brothers and sisters out there, you've got an evil person trying to germinate within your minds the unrealities that have been taught from the inception of this damn country. And it's time for us to take responsibility for our own thoughts, words, and ensure that those seeds don't germinate. Gonzalo, line number 1. Okay, did we lose Gonzalo? Okay, let's go to Bruce. Bruce, line number 2.
Good morning, Alberto.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
Thank you for landblasting him over that. When he walked up to the podium, I felt he might go there. I hoped he wouldn't. I had to change channels to keep from throwing up. I want to explain real quickly by his own words and so-called standards why he has to resign. Because Mary Trump, a highly qualified psychiatric professor, has diagnosed him with a disorder called severe and progressive narcissism. So, by his own standards and his own words, he needs to take himself out of office.
I love that. Yes, I agree. That's a good one, Bruce.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna keep your time. I'm gonna give you time back to you. But thanks for taking my call and keep it up, man. I love what you're doing.
Thank you, my brother. You have a wonderful rest of your day. All right, let's go to Patty. Come on in, Patty.
Good morning. He did do us the advantage of documenting his complete and utter failure yesterday with his memorandum for the Secretary of Transportation. It's headed Presidential Actions. The subject line is Immediate Assessment of Aviation Safety, and it's signed the White House. And as he blames the Obama and Biden administration for their DEI, of course, he did not say that that policy also, those were the bookends to his policy. It never changed. And when he was asked about how he knew it was diversity as soon as it happened, he said, because he has common sense. Well, anyone with common sense knows that it's wrong to lie, but also that it is not smart to lie. Lies are a web that will trap you, and he has documented this with his memorandum last night.
Man, you nailed it, man. You nailed it, Patty. Thank you for that. Anything else before I move on to Betty?
That's all. Thank you.
You have a wonderful day, Patty. Let's go to Sister Betty. Come on in. Betty, you're on.
Oh, hi. I'm sorry. Trump is right out of the gate again with the same old sixes and seven, black, black, blue, blue. And his interview, what he said then, he was reading off of his hands, he was reading off of his arms, and he was reading off of his butt. All of what he said was all that. But anyway, did he ever say and give any grief or anything to the families? No. And as far as him thinking of the mental and the cripples, when he first got in there, they needed to have the plug pulled on them. Trump is in he's in there now. And we have the right to blame him for everything, even if I can't go to the toilet. I love y'all. Bye-bye.
Love you, girl. Have a good one. Before I jump to Patrick, I just want to say something. We talk a lot about what's wrong, what's going wrong, but the empowering part of what I want us to be doing is there's a whole lot in the chain right now that Trump has planned. If you listened, I did a piece on RFK. One of the reasons he has these pieces in and some of the things that he's doing, if you listen to the senators questioning RFK, you'll notice one important thing. They are telling you, they are telegraphing that they want to take a lot of money out of Medicaid and a lot of money out of Medicare. And we are going to be reporting on that. We are going to be making you aware of that. There's something you can do. All these senators know that theoretically speaking, Donald Trump is a lame duck president, meaning he can't he can't run again. But they can. It is imperative on all of us. And those of you that are, that are about to get to Medicare age, and those of you who want to maintain Medicare and Medicaid, it's imperative for you to keep calling your senator and congressperson, Democrat or Republican, and let them know where you stand. Because if they think they can get away with lying about the changes that they have planned for Medicare and Medicaid that we've told you about several times along, they'll continue to do so. And when it becomes law, they're doing it with something called reconciliation, which means they only need 50 votes plus one. When they pass this law to change, a lot of what they're going to do will not be easily reversed. Just like how Obamacare is not easily reversed because portions of Obamacare was not done with the reconciliation. It was done with the cloture, 60-vote majority. A lot of what is going to be in place, yes, it's going to be done with reconciliation, but it will be because of deficits very hard to reverse. You have to work now. Let's go to Patrick. Come on in, Patrick. Patrick, are you there? Okay. I don't hear Patrick. Studio, are you still there? Yeah. Oh, there you go. Patrick, come on in.
Yeah. You can hear me now?
Yes, sir, I can.
Hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I called in to remind you something that we touched on that 3 o'clock program. The 3 o'clock program is a lot like this one, but we get to talk a lot longer. And sometimes two of us get on the line at the same time. I'm getting to know people like Ray and Joe and enjoying company and other people's points of view, but one thing that you touched on yesterday was that if first off, flight control is, we all know, is extremely stressful. There's been movies, books, and everything done on it. But when you take that stress and then all of a sudden you take your job, or you're looking around and you're seeing what chair is going to be empty next to you in the next few days, just because somebody has decided that they don't want to give everybody a fair chance, you tend to lose focus. And so if you're threatening people's jobs that are keeping planes from contacting each other, it might not be a good idea. And so you pointed out that the stress that these people are going through might have contributed to that crash. And so threatening people's jobs isn't a good idea. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you for reminding me about that, Patrick. I love you guys, man. Because again, we that's why 10 minds are always better than one mind, because the collective always works. What Patrick said is important. Donald Trump comes in there and he puts all federal people on angst. They're all anxious. They're all wondering what's going on. And that as well affect performance. Thank you for that, Patrick. You have a wonderful rest of your day. All right, let's go to Derek. Come on in, Derek.
Hey, good morning, Politics Done Right family. Donald Trump is born to tear the country down brick by brick. He's like the Pharaoh of the Bible. His heart is fixed, Alberto. Open your eyes, everybody. Every social wall that you thought that was impenetrable, Donald Trump is getting ready to break it down. Now, you mean to tell me now you're talking about the handicap again? So I hope that those who always want to call it criticizing, you don't have no handicap, because he's coming after you. And lastly, I just want to say, Trump hiring is DEI. Dumb executive ignorance.
Derek, when you came on, I got the message from Jack that you used those three acronyms, and I loved it. I have it written down and I forgot to use it, but you did it. Thank you, my brother. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, let's go to Eddie. Come on in, brother. Eddie, talk to me.
A couple of things. Like, I don't necessarily agree with Trump blaming DEI for what happened, but I think that's all speculation, and it is exactly the same as what you're doing now. You're saying his policies caused stress, and that could have caused the accident. That's purely speculation. You got no idea.
You're absolutely right. Wait. You're absolutely right. But you know what's the difference? I'm speculating. I said I'm speculating, and I am a host of a radio show. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. Donald Trump is speaking to absolutely everybody. And remember that seed that I told you was planted? That is real. Go ahead, continue, brother.
So my other point is, too, you made a point of reading off the resume of Lloyd Austin, which is quite impressive, and then did a huge disservice when you read the resume of Pete Hegseth. He's
Actually,
not just,
I did not.
That's what you said. You only called him a National Guardsman. You ignored the fact that he has a degree from Princeton and a degree from Harvard and was admitted into West Point and decided not to go.
Let me tell you why I omitted. I omitted it for reasons. Let me tell you why I omitted it. Because he was your classic. I omitted it because he was your classic DEI entry into all those schools. There's an article that I can point you to. I don't have it right now on me. He who criticizes DEI was the largest recipient of DEI. But go ahead, brother. Continue.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I think your listeners would deserve to know his resume is just as thick as other people's.
Actually, though, sir, his resume educationally it's not comparable to Austin, and his work is not comparable to Austin.
Degrees from Princeton and Harvard are not similar?
No, it's not similar at all, given what they were for, sir. Okay, so that's all I'm talking about. I'm saying, remember when I talk about, again, we're having a conversation here. When I talking about having to work twice as hard, this is what I'm talking about. Think about why it's so easy for you to feel
Again,
that Austin belongs in the same league with I mean that Headseth belong in the same league as Austin. I'm showing you what my mother and father taught me. The fact that you can look at those two resumes and talking about body of work and find them comparable is what I'm talking about. That somebody that did 10 times as much, and you are trying to equate those two careers. That's what I'm talking about when my parents told me that I had to work twice as hard.
okay, so the twice as hard thing, my parents told me work twice as hard as everyone else too. I think that's great advice for everybody out there.
But again, I commend your parents, sir. I do. But what I'm saying is, there's a different. Your reality is different than my reality in actual practice, and until people like you acknowledge that, it's hard to move forward. That's all I'm saying, sir. You try to make it seem like when we talk about these issues, like there's not merit to it. That's all I'm saying. Give us the merit and then we can have a real conversation. Do you follow?
Actually, that point I don't follow. You're saying give you the merit, like if you earn it, I'll give it to you.
Okay, sir. What I'm saying, I'm not talking about you, the individual. Eddie, I think I can guarantee, I would almost bet a finger on it, that you deep inside, you don't have any intrinsic. We all have prejudices, but you don't have an intrinsic prejudice when it's pointed out to you. I will give you that. But society does, brother. And when you ask society, when you ask a person like myself not to understand the tribulations that I had to go through that you would never go through, when you don't acknowledge that, it's a problem. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, but I don't think it exists to the magnification that you believe it does.
That's my point. Again, listen to your comment. I don't think it exists to
I-
the magnet. Brother, I wrote a book on it, sir, and I wrote a book that gave partial examples of the things that I've gone through with the fact-based stuff. Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean man. I wrote a book on it just to encapsulate it into one place. Okay, I wanted me as one person. I wanted to encapsulate it just to show. And what I'm saying is your constancy of saying, I don't think it's as bad as you're saying, etc. Brother, that's a problem.
I don't see it. I would rather look at you, look at your achievements and judge you.
That's you. I agree with you. Didn't I give you your kudos up front, sir? Didn't I tell you I believe you?
I'm saying there's a hell of a lot more people like me
No,
than there are
no,
like
sir, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
you don't.
33. No,
Yeah.
sir, I've done the stats. You're absolutely wrong, my brother. Most people, look, when I talk about that seed that I spoke about earlier, sir, I am.
It's the same thing when you say it's the fact that Donald Trump was elected because we're sexist, misogynistic, and racist.
Exactly.
How
And
is that a
I
fact?
stand by that. I stand by that. I gave you I gave you the breakdown of how we could prove that empirically. Okay, and I gave the statistics about how things. Let me finish, sir. When we take the data and we abstract the data from the person, everything that Kamala represents went through the roof as far as what Americans want. And once you attached the person to it, it all changed. But Eddie. Notice I gave you time. I want to give you more time as you call more to the show. We'll talk later. But I got 3 more calls and I got to do it in 3 minutes. Okay. So I appreciate your call. Keep calling and let's keep talking. Richard Hanna, my brother, my reporter from here at KPFT. Richard, talk to me real quick though. I only can give you a little bit of time, brother.
Yeah. Real quick, it's typical how especially Caucasians look at what we do, and we have to do double the job, because if we don't do double the job, we're going to be saying white people in general say, well, you just got that job because you're black. You just got that job because you're Latino. But so they don't understand that, that's why we have to work harder. It's because of that same type of rhetoric. The president did say something about the people that passed away. I can't talk much on that because of what I do. But I don't know if you talked about the amount of people. They always talk about the border and the immigration. And have you looked at how many Haitians have been deported?
Yes,
And how many Caribbean people from Jamaica or the Caribbean have been deported?
Yes. And I think I want you to do a piece for me, Richard. I got to go, Richard, but I need you to do a piece with me on the deportation. I think you have some context that I want to use. So let's talk about that later, okay?
We have a press conference today. Well, not we, but I keep thinking Craig Washington, but
I got you. I got to go, but we'll talk. I got to go. Let's. Hey, Patrick, real quick. Patrick, come and said he needs to cut back real quick. Patrick, real quick.
As fast as I can. I was going to help not the last caller, but the caller before. The two of you to try and see eye to eye. You're speculating with the support of evidence and actually multi tiers of evidence. And the amount of pushback that Hegseth got, along with several other things of his past, pushes you in the direction to speculate. And we do this in court. We do this all over the place, and you have to. If I own you'll say you're a pizza shop, one of my employees is on camera and they're walking around, they're the last person in the shop, and that employee goes up and sprays a camera, and the next morning you show up and the till is empty, you have to speculate that person
you nailed it.
Money.
Patrick, you nailed it. I got to give Brian 30 seconds, though. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, Patrick. Brian, 30 seconds. Come on in, Brian. 30 seconds. Just make your point.
Yeah. Did Biden give a press conference after the fires in Hawaii or the hurricanes in South Carolina?
I honestly don't. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
No,
He did thank you. I appreciate it.
He did not answer
All
questions afterwards.
Okay, thank you, my brother. Harry, you got 10 seconds. 10 seconds, Harry. Hurry.
Dumb executive ignorance and its protection.
Thank you. All right, thank you, brother. Gotta go. Hey, folks, love you all. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter is the rest of the show. Great. Thank you, Howard and Jack. Show kind of went over. But anyway, you guys have a wonderful day. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
You're listening to the American Democracy